7 weeks into the WNBA season, and the league looks nothing like anyone predicted. One team is winning without its best player and might be playing the best basketball in the league. Another spent big in the offseason, added household names, and is somehow one of the worst teams in the entire WNBA. And then there's a franchise that was supposed to be dead in the water this year, quietly creeping toward a playoff spot nobody saw coming. The standings are a mess. The surprises are real. And some front offices have serious explaining to do. Now, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. We are deep enough into this WNBA season now that the early season noise has settled and the real picture is coming into focus. Some teams look exactly like we expected, but the ones that don't, those are the stories worth telling. Today we're breaking down the franchises whose stock has risen or fallen the most, the good, the bad, and the genuinely ugly. Let's get into it. Let's start with the feel-good story of the season, because it is genuinely remarkable. Heading into this year, most analysts had the Minnesota Lynx penciled in as a team treading water at best. And honestly, the concerns were completely valid. Napheesa Collier, their franchise cornerstone, was still recovering from off-season ankle surgery and hadn't played a single minute. On top of that, the roster looked dramatically different from a year ago. Alana Smith, who shared Defensive Player of the Year honors last season, was gone. So were Bridget Carleton, Dijanai Carrington, Natisha Heedman, Jessica Shepard, and Bridget Carleton. That's not just depth walking out the door. That's the spine of a winning rotation, gone in one offseason. Minnesota didn't respond by chasing a marquee free agent either. They brought in veteran forwards Natasha Howard and Nia Coffey, solid, experienced players, but nobody was putting them on a billboard. The question being asked around the league was simple. How does this team stay afloat without Collier and with so many familiar faces missing? Here's where things became even more surprising. They didn't just stay afloat. They thrived. And the reason why starts with a name that's quickly becoming one of the most exciting in the entire league, Olivia Miles. The second overall pick in this year's draft, Miles has been nothing short of a revelation. She's averaging 18.5 points, 5.6 assists, and 4.9 rebounds per game. Numbers that would be impressive for a 5-year veteran, let alone a rookie stepping into a leadership role from day one. The poise she's shown running Minnesota's offense has been genuinely jaw-dropping, and the ripple effect on her teammates has been just as significant. Courtney Williams is the perfect example. With Miles commanding the ball-handling duties, Williams has shifted off the primary playmaking role, and the results have been striking. She's putting up a career-best 16.7 points per game. That's what happens when you put players in positions where they can actually succeed. And Natasha Howard? In her 13th WNBA season, she's flirting with career-high numbers while being one of the more efficient players on the roster. Head coach Cheryl Reeve has somehow squeezed maximum performance out of a roster that most people counted out before the season even started. There's an old saying in this league. Question Cheryl Reeve at your own peril. 7 weeks in, that saying has never felt more accurate. Minnesota is proof that the right system and the right coaching can turn a projected down year into something special. And Collier hasn't even suited up yet. From one unexpected success story to another, and this one might actually be more shocking given where Portland started. When the expansion draft wrapped up, the consensus was pretty clear. The Golden State Valkyries looked built to compete sooner. The Portland Fire, by contrast, seemed to be taking the long view, gathering pieces, building culture, accepting that year one would be a learning experience. And to be fair, that's still mostly the narrative. But nobody expected the Fire to be this competitive. Portland has had its struggles. They've gone just 3-7 over their last 10 games, and their defensive rating ranks near the bottom of the league. Those are real problems. But zoom out a little, and the bigger picture is genuinely encouraging for a first-year franchise. Lead guard Carla Leite has taken a major leap in her second WNBA season, giving Portland a reliable engine to run their offense through. Bridget Carleton, the team's splashiest offseason addition, has lived up to every bit of the billing, putting together the kind of campaign that has people making a legitimate case for her first All-Star selection. Megan Gustafson has been a quality free agent addition, and Emily Engsler has been a consistent starter who fits exactly what coach Alex Sarama is trying to build. And let's not forget the moment that set the tone for this entire franchise, Sarah Ashley Barker's buzzer beater to give the Fire their very first win in franchise history. That kind of moment does something for a locker room. It tells a group of players that they belong. The schedule gets a bit more manageable in the coming weeks, which is good news because Portland needs to tighten things up defensively if they want to stay in the playoff conversation. In what figures to be a brutal battle for that final postseason spot, the Fire are still very much in the mix. For an expansion team in year one, that alone is a success story. Now let's talk about a team that had every reason to be good and has been anything but. The Phoenix Mercury came into this season with legitimate expectations. They made the finals just a year ago. They have two genuine stars in Alyssa Thomas and Collier Copper. Nate Tibbetts is a capable head coach. Ownership is invested. This was supposed to be a team pushing for a deep playoff run. Instead, Phoenix sits at 6 wins and 13 losses, and the gap between who they were last season and who they are right now is jarring. So, what happened? 2 words: depth and defense. Sammy Wickham hasn't played a single game this season due to injury. Monique Akoamakani has dealt with absences. Natasha Mack is now out as well. That's a lot of meaningful contributors missing from the equation all at once, and the impact has been brutal on both ends of the floor. Phoenix went from first in bench scoring in 2025 to 13th this season. 13th. That's not a slight dip. That's a complete collapse in secondary production. Players like Dawana Bonner, Noemi Brochant, and Giovanna Najic have been pushed into starting roles, and while they've given effort, the results have exposed just how thin this roster actually is without its full complement. Defensively, it's even worse. The Mercury's defensive rating has dropped from 100.4 last season, which ranked 5th in the league, all the way down to 109.2, good for 11th. That's a nearly 9% deterioration in one of the most critical areas of their game. What makes this particularly painful for Phoenix fans is the context. Teams like the Golden State Valkyries and the Dallas Wings have both stepped past the Mercury in the standings. A franchise that was a finals participant 12 months ago is now sitting 3.5 games outside of a playoff spot. Can they recover? Possibly. The talent at the top of the roster is real, and injuries can turn around. But the window is getting smaller by the week, and the margin for error is basically gone. And then there's Chicago. Fair warning. This one is not a fun story to tell, but it's the one that needs to be told most honestly. The Sky came into this season with genuine ambition. The front office went out and did the work in the offseason, adding Skylar Diggins, Natasha Cloud, Azra Stevens, and Rikia Jackson in a series of moves clearly designed to push Chicago back into playoff contention. There were valid questions about how all those pieces would fit together. But the intention was obvious. This was a team trying to win. The result has been a 5-12 record and arguably the most dysfunction of any roster in the league right now. Jackson's injury has certainly hurt, and that's a factor that's genuinely out of the team's control. But the problems run much deeper than one missing player. Chicago ranks dead last in the WNBA in effective shooting percentage at 46.6%. Dead last. They have the worst rebounding margin in the entire league. They've repeatedly found ways to lose games they were leading late, which speaks to either a depth issue, a conditioning issue, or a mental toughness issue, and possibly all three at once. And here's where it gets really complicated. The obvious exit ramp for a team in this position is to punt on the season, lose some games, and position yourself for a high draft pick. Rebuild through the draft. Start fresh with young talent. Except Chicago can't do that either, because they traded away their 2027 first-round pick to acquire Ariel Atkins, who has already been dealt away herself. So they gave up future assets for a player they no longer have. That's the kind of organizational decision that haunts a franchise for years. There's no real pathway to tanking, and based on what's happening on the court right now, there's no real pathway to competing either. The Sky are stuck in a genuinely difficult position with very few good options on the table. What this season is showing us, 7 weeks in, is that the WNBA landscape is shifting fast. Minnesota is proving that elite coaching and smart drafting can overcome almost anything. Portland is showing that expansion franchises don't have to be pushovers from day one. And Phoenix and Chicago are painful reminders that talent alone doesn't build a winning team. Depth, health, roster construction, and organizational decision-making all matter just as much. The playoff picture is going to be decided in the next several weeks, and there are a handful of teams fighting for the same spots. Every game is going to count. Every injury update is going to matter. And every front office decision from here on out will be magnified under a spotlight that only gets brighter as the postseason approaches.
Minnesota is the best story in the league right now, and they haven't even gotten their best player back yet. That should terrify everyone else in the conference. Portland is a genuine feel-good story that deserves more attention than it's getting. Phoenix has the pieces to turn things around but is running out of time to do it. And Chicago? Chicago needs a reset at just about every level. And the road back is going to be a long one. The WNBA season has delivered surprise after surprise, and we're not even halfway through. The teams at the top have been consistent. But the real drama? It's happening in the middle and at the bottom, where roster decisions, injuries, and coaching are separating the contenders from the pretenders faster than anyone expected. Alright, I want to hear from you. Is Minnesota the most impressive team in the WNBA right now? Can Phoenix claw its way back into the playoff picture? And is there any way back for the Chicago Sky this season? Or is this year already lost? Drop your takes in the comments, smash that like button if you're enjoying the content, and hit subscribe so you never miss a breakdown. See you in the next one.